Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Cockpit printer, and today we will have a closer look to the design of our first panel. We will go back to Fusion and add some labels to the panel so that we have a nice little panel with all the labeling links on it. We will have an introduction into multicolor printing, and finally we will print the part. So subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and let's go to work. We are back in Fusion, and now we want to add some labels to our first panel. For this, I just want to open up the panel we did in the first episode. So for this, I open up the projects manager. It's over here. So data panel. And here on the home button, you can see all the projects. So you can see I have several projects already created inside Fusion. So go back to your main project. In my case, it's a YouTube project. And the first panel. This is a panel we did in the first episode. So just open up this document. And here's our panel. So in this episode, I want to show you some more details inside Fusion. So first of all, I want to change the appearance of this panel. It's in the color, the standard gray of Fusion, and I want to change it into the muted blue color. We want to print the panel. So to change the appearance from this body, it's very simple. Just go to your bodies folder, select the panel, right click onto the panel, and there go to appearance. Then the appearance window will open up, and there is a library inside Fusion. Just search for blue, and there are several blue colors inside Fusion, from aluminum, glass, plastics, or several kinds of materials, and I will use the matte blue plastic. So right now it's not downloaded, so if there's the little download button over here, you can just download this appearance, and just by dragging it onto our body, it will change the appearance of the body. All right, that looks nice. Close the appearance window with these two arrows, and now let's add some labels to it. So as we did it with the general design of the panel itself, we will start with a 2D sketch. So create sketch, select the upper face of the body, and now we will add the labels. Open up the Create tab, and here there you will find the text. The text needs a 2-point rectangle, so just create a rectangle, and inside there you can see the sample text. I will change it to strobe. The font, for now I will use this one in bold, and the alignment, just make sure that you have the horizontal and the vertical alignment to center and middle, and simply close the window. And now you have created the first label. You can drag it around, but you can see if I'm dragging this middle point of the label and I'm moving it, it will slightly tilt. So we have to prevent the label from tilting. So let's have a look on the constraints. We skipped it in the first episode. So now let's have a look on the constraints. In the first episode, we only added some dimensions in order to fully define all of our geometries. Now we will use some constraints. So the first constraint I will use is a horizontal vertical constraint. So if I'm moving this label over here, it's slightly tilted, and I will add a horizontal constraint to this label. So activate this constraint and select either a horizontal or vertical line of the rectangle. So I will just select this lower line, and now there's this little icon, a horizontal constraint, and now it's not possible to tilt this label anymore. That's quite nice. So now it stays in the horizontal alignment. So now we have to make sure that this middle point is always in a vertical line above the center point of the circle. So I will create a line for this. And now let's have a look on the line types. We skipped this in the first episode. So there are two types of lines. There's a little sketch window over here, and there you can select a line type. And there are two or three types of lines. The standard one we can use as a body line. We are able to extrude. So this is a standard geometry for our body creation. Go back to the sketch. And the line type I'm using right now is a construction line. So I'm creating this construction line from the center of this circle. So if I'm getting closer and closer to the center point, at some point it will snap onto the center point, and I will just create a vertical line. So if I'm moving the mouse to the left, at some point it will snap into the vertical line. Just finish the line with this little icon over here. Do the same as well with the right circle. Move the mouse to the right until it snaps into the vertical alignment. The line tool is still active. Hit escape to finish the line tool. So now I just can drag this center point of this label onto this construction line. And now this label is aligned above the circle. So let's go back to the construction lines. I will just create a 2-point rectangle with or as a construction line. I finish the sketch and try to make an extrusion of this rectangle, but that's not possible. I'm not able to select this rectangle because it's just a construction line, not a body line. So that's the difference between a construction line and the body line, that the construction line is just, as the name says, for the construction itself and not meant to be extruded. All right, so we are back in the sketch. The label is aligned on this vertical line. So let's add some more labels. Or if you want to change this label, simply double click on the label and you're back in the edit text window. You can change the text, the height of the labels, and all the settings. So now I you can either create new text fields, like over here, beacon, height 4 millimeters, typeface bold, center and middle alignment. Okay, but now you have still the problem when you are moving this label, it will tilt. So you have to add a horizontal dimension again with this line. Now it has the constraint. You can drag the middle point onto this construction line, and you have created the second label. So I don't want to add a horizontal constraint to each of the labels I'm about to create. So I can just copy and paste an existing label. For this, I'm just selecting this label, press Ctrl and C, Ctrl and V, and now I'm creating a copy of this label. You can drag it with the center point, hit OK to exit. Now I will change the text to on and the height of the label to 3.5 millimeters. Okay, and drag it onto this construction line. And now I'm copying this label, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, drag it downwards. Create several copies of this, Ctrl V, I'm still in the copy mode, Ctrl V. And we need one more for the strobe light auto one over here. All right, let's change the text off. And this to auto. So I will create it in several lines, the auto. Okay, drag the label onto a construction line. So for the lower labels, I have to create some more construction lines. Go back to the line tool, select the line type construction from the center point downwards in the vertical line. Finish this line. We are still in the line tool. Select this center point and create a vertical line over here. Hit escape to finish the line tool and drag the labels onto the construction line. Let's create one more construction line over here for the auto label, but now a horizontal line. You can even create a horizontal line between those two circles and drag the auto label on this construction line. Now I want to set the distance from all the labels to the center point. So there are two ways to do this. One way is to grab this lower line of the label and add a dimension to the center point. But in this case, I have to define the height of this rectangle. Second way I will show you is to use a construction line again. and just create a horizontal line over here. Just make sure that you have a horizontal line created, and one over here. And let's do one more construction line on top for the main labels. And now I will add some dimensions from the center to this construction lines. 30 millimeters, 13, and from the center to the upper 19.5. And now drag the labels onto the intersection between the two construction lines. Let's do one more construction line over here for the auto label. If you haven't created a vertical line, it doesn't matter. This line is not vertically aligned. Just add a vertical constraint to this line. So now it's perfectly vertically, and add some dimensions from the center to this construction line, 13 millimeters, and drag the auto label onto the intersection over here. And now all the labels are perfectly aligned. And now let's do some extrusions. Finish the sketch. And first of all, I want to cut out all the labels out of my existing panel. So create an extrusion and select all of the labels. And extrusion downwards, -2 millimeters. And operation type is cut. That's very important. We want to cut our existing body. Okay. And now you can see that our panel is cut, and we have created all the labeled cuts in there. Now you can see in the bodies folder there are several, or before we did this extrusion there was only one body. Now there are 15 bodies in total. So that's because we have cut the existing panel. And for example, the R has this little island in the middle, and it's not possible to have a solid body with gaps. So in this case, Fusion will detect that there is a little island with no connection to the existing body, and it will create an individual body for this little island. That's the reason why we have several new bodies over here. So just to be tidy in our design tree, I will create a new group for all the panel parts. I will rename it to panel. Select the upper one with the pressed shift key, select the lower body, and drag all the bodies into this group. And now we will create one more extrusion. Reactivate sketch number 6. It's for our labels. You can even rename the sketch into labels. Switch the visibility with the eye icon and do another extrusion with all the labels. And now I'm creating another extrusion, but now we have to be careful. We want a height of the extrusion of negative 0.4 millimeters, but make sure that the operation type is set to new body. We don't want to join this extrusion to the existing bodies. We want to create new bodies. That's very important. Hit OK. And now you can see there are several new bodies created. Just switch the visibility of the label. And now you can see that there are new bodies, a thickness of 0.4 millimeters. And these are the bodies for our labels itself. So create a new group inside the bodies folder, right click on the bodies folder, create a new group and rename it to label. Select the upper one, select the lower one with the pressed shift key and drag all of the bodies into this labels folder. One more thing I want to do, open up the labels folder, select all of the bodies, right click on the bodies and I want to change the appearance. Search in the library for white and there are several white appearances over here. I will just select the standard ABS white and drag it on one of the selected bodies and will apply this appearance to all of the selected bodies. And now we have created our labels. Okay, one last thing I want to do is to add a transparent layer on top. So if you have a closer look to the labels, there are all the little islands over here. Inside the A, there's a very little island. So when we print this part, we will have adhesion problems with these small little islands. So to fix this, I will apply a very thin layer of transparent filament on top, so that these small islands have some material underneath it that they can stick to. So for this I will add a transparent layer. There are several ways to do this. I already created all the labels. So if I want to create a new extrusion, I have to select all of the single entities inside here. So it is a little bit annoying. So I will do it another way. Let's have a look on the lower side of the screen. There is our timeline. So here you can see we started with a 2D sketch, did an extrusion, second sketch, second extrusion, and so on. And here is a marker where we are in the timeline right now. So we are at the very end of the timeline, but we can drag this marker anywhere in our timeline. So let's jump behind the first extrusion, and now we can see this is the current status of my part after the first extrusion. So let's move on. The second extrusion was our shell. The third extrusion, the holes. So that's very nice because with this timeline we are able to jump back in time. Now we can even drag our extrusions and fillets and chambers we did earlier. We can drag it in the timeline. So now I want to drag the holes I created to a point after I have created the chamfers. So just let's identify the cutouts in the timeline. Just select this cylinder, and you can see it's marked over here. So this is the extrusion that has created the circles inside the panel. So this is my first extrusion, and this is the second extrusion I want to move. So you can select all the components you want to move and drag it to the right over here. And if I'm moving back the marker, now you can see the fillets and the chamfers are created before these cutouts are created. And jump back after the fillet operation, and now we will add another extrusion to it. So go to the extrusion tool, select the upper face, and create an extrusion upwards 0.4 millimeters, and make sure that the operation type is set to new body. So this body is our transparent layer. And this transparent layer gets an appearance. Right click, appearance, search for glass, and just add some kind of glass. Here is our transparent layer. Now it's very important to make this transparent layer invisible, but because when we are dragging this timeline backwards, it might happen that the extrusions are added or cutted the transparent layer. So now you can see the labels are created again, and if we are toggling the visibility of the transparent layer, now you can see the transparent layer is on top of the panel. And now all of these small islands have material underneath it while printing, so that they are able to stick to this material. So I didn't create the cutouts for the toggle switches inside this transparent layer. That has a purpose, and I will show you that purpose in the preparation inside Bambu Studio. So right now I'm finished with creating all of the labels, and in the last step I have to export all of the parts as STL files. So I will start with the transparent layer, because I have to export all the parts individually for the multicolor print. So let's start with the transparent layer. Right click, save as mesh. Transparent layer, name, browse to your folder you want to export the STL file to. Now change the visibility of the transparent layer and the visibility of the panel, so that we have only the labels. Right click on the top folder of this whole part, right click and save as mesh. So now all components that are visible will be exported in an STL file. So I don't have to manually export each body individually. I just make all the files I want to export visible. Select the upper folder, save as mesh, give it a name, label, save, and do this as well with the panel, switch the visibility of the panel and make sure that the visibility of the labels are invisible. Right click on the top folder, save as mesh, and save it as panel. Alright, now I've exported all the files for the multi, and now you can see there is a 2mm thickness of the panel and a 0.4mm thickness of the labels, so that the light is blocked from the panel but is able to travel through the label. So that's the reason why the labels are just 0.4mm in thickness. Alright, so see you in Bambu Studio when we will cover the basics of multicolor printing. We are back in Bambu Studio, and now we will create the multicolor print for the panel with the labels. So first of all, create a new project. So the mapping of the materials and the colors is already done. Don't have to do it again. So now let's start with adding all of our parts. Browse to your folder. You have the parts exported to, so the label, the panel, and the transparent layer. And make sure that you have selected all 3 parts and open the parts. And now, this is very important. Now, Bambu Studio needs some information how it should handle these files. Are they individual files, or are they just one file for a multicolor print? So if I say yes, it will import all of the files as a single object, and if I'm moving it, it will move all of the 3 parts. Just open it up again and say no. Now you can see all of the 3 parts, the panel, the transparent layer, and the labels, are handled individually. But for a multicolor print, we have to make sure that we are loading it at as one part. So select all of the parts, open it up, and say yes, load these files as a single object. So first of all, we have to reorient the part. So we will reuse the auto orient button. So it will just look for the largest face of my body and will place it onto the build plate like this. Now let's have a look on the objects. So inside my process, there are global settings and there are objects. So here you can see there is an object and it contains 3 parts: the label, the panel, and the transparent layer. And you can see over here, all of the 3 parts have the same filament selected. So I will change this just by right-click on this first part, change filament, and for the label I will select the white PLA. The color for the panel itself, it's the white one, I will not change it. But for the transparent layer, I will change the filament type to the filament at slot number 3, where my transparent filament is located. And now we have done the preparation for the multicolor printing. There's a little cube over here, and that is the cleaning tower. So every time the printer will change the material, it will print a thin layer on this block, so that we are sure that when the print is started on the panel, that the new filament is loaded completely and no filament of the previous color is remaining inside the system. So this block is created automatically. Now just say slice plate. And if we have a preview, roll through all the layers, and now you can see this layer is starting with a white color for all the labels. And now the transparent layer is underneath it, and all of the small islands will stick to the transparent layer. It looks nice. All right. And here you can see the reason why we have created this transparent layer without the holes in it. Because every time the printer is reaching a boundary, it will break the motion and it will reposition at another position, and you will see the change between the two lines. So in order to get a really nice flat surface on the transparent layer, we created this layer without any holes in it. So it's a nice motion, nice continuous motion inside this first layer. That's the reason why we don't create the holes in this transparent layer. We will just cut it out with a knife after the printing process. All right, I will change some parameters inside here, because if you have a closer look on the A, for example, this island is really small, so the blue color. So in this area I want to change the line width. So I will decrease the line width. For this I will add, go back to the prepare page, right click on either in the graphics screen on the panel, or here our part, right click, and I will add a height range modifier. So I just want to change the parameters on the layers the labels are created. So a height range modifier, and it will start at 0.4 millimeters to 0.8 millimeters. So the first 0.4 millimeters is our transparent layer. Then our panel will start with the labels, and the labels itself have a thickness of 0.4 millimeters, so 0.8. And in this range, I will change the quality of the print, and I will set all the line width to 0.26 millimeters. Now slice the plate again. And here you can see that the labels, the previous settings, the labels had 2 lines, and now there are 3 lines. So I have decreased the line width for the first layer of the labels and the second, and afterwards it will start again printing with this much larger line width, so it will print faster. So I just changed the parameters in this region of the labels from 0.4 to 0.8. I changed the quality, all line width, to 0.26 millimeters. And that's all I have to do in order to create a multicolor print. So now let's send this part to our printer, print plate. Here you can see the summary: 1 hour 2 minutes, 20 grams of filament, the mapping of the filament. So the muted blue filament from slot 1 white from slot 2 and transparent from slot 3. Make sure that the bed leveling is enabled and the AMS is enabled, that's very important, and send the part to the printer. And then the printer will start the multicolor print. So you can see it's very easy to create a multicolor print inside Bambu Studio. Well, this is the end of the final episode of our introduction to the series. We created our first panel with the labels on it, and now we have a complete overview of the process we will use over and over again in the series. We will always start with a 3D design, then do the printing, the assembly, and the connection to the flight sim. In this episode we added some labels to the panel, we printed it, and now there's just one step left, it's the assembly. So we have to switch the switches from this panel to this panel, but I'm very confident that you can do this on your own. In the next episode we will finally begin with this whole series of producing the real instruments. We will start with our first template we will use, and it's the panel template. We will have an introduction into assemblies inside Fusion. So make sure that you have subscribed to the channel, hit the bell, and see you in the next episode.